Hi, and welcome to The Regulated Mother. I'm your host, Afshan Tafler, nervous system resilience coach and mother of a hypersensitive high needs child. If you're raising a differently wired kid with PDA, autism, OCD, ADHD, or big emotional needs, this is a space for you. Here we talk about what most people don't, how it really feels, how your nervous system responds, and how to find your way back to calm, courage, and connection, even on the hardest days. This episode was created using an AI-generated discussion of one of my blog articles. I'm using this format to make my writing more accessible for those who prefer to listen rather than read. You'll find the link to the original article in the show notes. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to basically cut through the noise, take different sources, could be an article, research, maybe notes you shared, and really pull out the key knowledge.
Yeah, those surprising facts, the insights that actually stick with you.
Exactly. It's about getting informed pretty fast, but, with some real perspective.
Think of us as guides, maybe, helping you see the patterns, connect those dots.
And understand not just what something says, but why it really matters. We're hunting for those aha moments.
Definitely.
And today, we're diving into a very personal story. It's from an article called When Courage Emerges, a story of healing, co-regulation, and hope. It was shared by a parent facing, immense challenges with their child.
It's a really powerful piece, very vulnerable. It gives you a look inside a family's journey through some significant difficulty.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack the layers of this specific narrative. What's it tell us about healing? About how our nervous systems, function under pressure.
And about finding courage in situations that feel almost impossible.
Right. And especially about that profound power of co-regulation within a family, that back and forth support.
It's one family story, yeah, but the themes, they feel incredibly universal. I mean, for anyone facing tough challenges or trying to support someone through them.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
So the story kicks off with the parent right now in the present. They're walking in a forest, which they say is like a really regulating activity for them personally.
And they notice something important. They're letting themselves actually feel good, staying with that feeling.
Yeah, and they immediately contrast that with the past. How not long ago, staying with a good feeling was almost, impossible.
Right. Worry would rush in, that thought of, oh no, what if something bad happens again? They just couldn't hold on to any peace. Their system wouldn't let the goodness really land.
Which brings up such a key insight right from the start, being regulated. It isn't just about handling the hard stuff.
No, not at all. It's also about building the capacity, the tolerance for the pleasant feelings too. For joy, peace, connection. That capacity sounds crucial.
It really is, isn't it? It sort of teaches your nervous system that, okay, you can experience the whole range. You can feel the pain, the struggle, and you can return to feeling good, feeling safe. That's real resilience building.
And for this parent, being able to stay with the good now, it connects to feeling like they have more of a handle on life.
Yeah, which then leads them to look back at recent challenges, specifically their son's hospitalization just a year prior.
Right. For severe OCD and aggressive meltdowns, that experience hangs in the background.
It definitely sets the scene for the intense situation they faced just last week. A totally new health scare pops up.
Okay, so the son starts having these concerning digestive GI symptoms.
The parents working with doctors, trying to get tests done at home, but after 4 days, it's just not happening. No sample. Symptoms getting worse.
And the parent's own fear starts ramping up. You can feel it in the writing.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of responsibility, the fear of, am I being negligent here? Their own system is getting activated, which is completely understandable.
But this time, they mention having tools.
Exactly. That's the difference. They could actually use those tools to regulate their own nervous system enough to think more clearly.
And from that more grounded place, they made the tough call.
Yeah. They decided, okay, we need to go to the hospital.
Making that decision from regulation versus panic. And it changes everything, doesn't it?
Completely. It meant they could approach their son calmly, even though they pretty much knew how he'd react.
And yeah, his reaction was intense, totally expected. He's mostly housebound, resistant to leaving, especially for medical stuff.
The parent describes immediate panic, then it flipped into rage, running around, throwing things, banging on things, just pure overwhelm.
But here's where you see the parents' work paying off.
Yeah.
Their response.
Right. They and the husband stayed calm, stayed grounded. They sort of knew this was the panic energy needing an outlet.
Their nervous systems were stable enough to just hold the space for his storm.
Mm-hmm. They didn't try to shut it down, didn't argue. They recognized that energy just had to move.
And the parent points out the timing, deciding to go around 11 p.m., actually kind of worked with his sleep schedule.
Yeah, his current circadian rhythm. He was usually up late anyway, so they weren't fighting that too.
And they tried this strategic approach, framing this really scary thing
As maybe something novel, like a late-night family adventure.
It's an interesting technique,
Yeah.
pairing the hard thing with something potentially different, maybe even a little positive.
Yeah, trying to shift the energy around it. But what's really striking is the parents' honesty about their own feelings during all this.
Totally. They admit their fear was definitely there, stirred up by past hospital trauma.
The husband's Crohn's flares, the son's mental health stay last year. That stuff doesn't just disappear.
But the difference this time, they weren't totally swept away by it.
Exactly. They talk about containing the fear with compassion, holding it gently instead of letting it steer the ship completely. The fear was a passenger, but they were driving.
And the impact of that shift, it's huge. Because as the parents stayed present, stayed regulated.
Something amazing happened. The son started to settle. He began to regulate too.
That's co-regulation right there in action.
It absolutely is. The parents' grounded state literally created like a safe container for his system to calm down, even a little bit.
And from that slightly calmer place,
Yeah.
his own capacity just emerged.
Capacity that showed up as pure creativity and courage. He came up with this idea.
The wheelchair idea.
Yeah.
It's kind of astonishing. He suggested using a borrowed wheelchair they had and getting a wheelchair-accessible taxi.
And think about why that was so brilliant for him.
Right, the parent explains it. It bypasses their car, huge trigger for his OCD and PDA anxiety.
PDA, pathological demand avoidance. That intense resistance, especially under stress, often around perceived demands. Getting in the car usually meant he needed to control everything.
So his idea was a way for him to solve the getting there problem while minimizing his biggest triggers.
And he even added that little layer of novelty, saying he'd always wanted to ride in one of those taxis. It wasn't just avoiding, it was creative problem solving.
Amazing. But then, the taxi wasn't available right then.
Right. So the parent gently suggested their own car, mentioning they had used it recently, so it wasn't totally out of the blue.
And here's maybe the most crucial part. The parent just stayed quiet.
No pushing, no arguing, no filling the silence with anxious chatter, just letting him process.
And he figured it out. He found another way.
Yeah, another solution. He agreed to the car, but they'd bring the wheelchair in the trunk to use once they got to the hospital.
The parent writes about being just stunned. In the middle of all that panic, he accessed his own resources, found his own path forward, using a tool that helped him feel safer.
Incredible agency, but the journey wasn't quite over. In the car, another wave of fear hit. He froze up again.
And here's another massive breakthrough. Something the parent says was totally new for him.
He could name the fear.
Yes. He actually said he was scared because he remembered being left alone in the hospital ward the year before.
Being able to identify that, connect it to a past trauma memory, and voice it, that's huge, a major step in healing.
And the parent's response was just vital. Repeated, clear reassurance.
Telling him again and again, this time is different, we stay. Parents can sleep there, no one makes us leave.
It took repeating it, but the parent says he believed them, and he agreed to keep going.
That relentless reinforcing of safety and presence when trauma pops up, it's everything. Their persistence really paid off there.
So on the drive, they used strategies they knew helped regulate him before, pointing out familiar things he liked seeing outside.
Keeping the energy, as light and joyful as they could manage. Reminiscing about good memories from past drives.
Practical tools, right.
Yeah.
Helping his nervous system find little anchors of safety, even in a scary situation.
And connection, positive sensory input, relational presence.
Yeah. Then at the hospital, first thing, he asked for the wheelchair again.
And the parent has this moment of reflection, because in the past...
They might have pushed back, worried about enabling OCD or dependency.
But now, with their understanding, especially around PDA, their whole perspective had shifted.
Yeah. Instead of seeing it as, problematic avoidance, they saw it as an accommodation he needed under extreme stress.
And crucially, it was his idea, his way of solving the problem, supporting it, was supporting his autonomy.
Not enabling something negative. It's such a different frame.
A profound shift, really, driven by understanding the underlying need. They also kept orienting him inside the hospital, too, pointing out glass elevators he used to love as a kid.
Bringing in threads of positive memory, positive familiarity. Again, intentionally pairing the hard stuff with anchoring moments.
So they finally get to the ER and get the news. 9-hour wait. It's 2 a.m. Not ideal.
Not ideal at all. But then something happens that the parent flags as just incredible evidence of the change in him.
This is amazing. The nurses use simple words, greetings, words that for years were massive OCD triggers.
IQ, just normal words.
And he didn't activate, he didn't spiral, he just tolerated them.
The parent makes it clear. A year ago, those exact words would have sent him into a huge, painful spiral instantly.
Wow. That's monumental progress. It shows how much healing had happened under the surface, even when faced with an activating situation.
Just huge. So based on the nurse's advice, since he wasn't in acute pain, they decide to go home and do the test the next day.
Makes sense. But before they leave, the parent does one more intentional thing.
Right, to end the hospital visit on a positive note, they rode those glass elevators again.
Talked about good past experiences connected to healthcare, a gluten-free store nearby, nice nurses during blood draws years ago.
Planting seeds, right. Positive associations.
Yeah.
Gently prepping his system for the home blood draw still to come.
It's such conscious, active parenting, focused on regulation and shaping the experience.
So they finally get home. It's 3 a.m. They must be exhausted. But the parent sits with him for another hour while he just processes.
He talked and talked about the whole night. And the parent emphasizes this. He was smiling, genuinely proud of himself.
Holding that space for processing, witnessing that pride, that helps solidify the win in his system.
Absolutely. And the next couple of days, he kept talking about how courageous he'd been that night.
And then, remarkably, he finally provides the stool sample after 5 days.
And gets the blood drawn at home by an amazing nurse, the parent says.
And then he looks at his mom and just says, "Mommy, that wasn't so hard."
Oh, wow. That sentence, that wasn't so hard. After 6 years of being trapped, housebound, school refusal, the rages, the shame, OCD, trauma, for him to feel that ease.
To express that sense of accomplishment.
The parent says they saw joy and pride literally shining in his eyes, something they hadn't seen in 6 long years.
And bringing it back to the beginning, the parent shares they could actually receive that moment. Let that joy, that pride, land in their own system.
Staying with the good, not rushing past it, letting it nourish them too.
So, returning to that forest walk where the story began, the parent reflects on that incredibly challenging week. And they told their son,
This was a challenging week, but we are both stronger than we know. We can do hard things.
it captures it perfectly. And they really highlight that contrast, the peace in the forest now versus the intense trauma vortex they lived in before.
Challenges aren't gone, no, but they're not stuck in that same relentless cycle.
And they credit this amazing progress to several things working together.
Yeah, the trauma work they'd been doing, the deconditioning from triggers, changing the environment to support his needs.
And crucially, their own nervous system regulation work and how it helped the whole family dynamic. They feel more like a team now.
It really shows how individual healing ripples out through the whole system, doesn't it?
Definitely. This story then wraps up with this really direct, heartfelt message from the parent to other parents who are maybe still in the thick of it.
Offering that empathy first. I see you.
And then this deep reassurance. You're not behind. You're not doing wrong. You are planting seeds, and they will grow, even if you can't see anything yet.
Emphasizing that progress is happening even when it feels invisible. Those little slivers of hope, tiny moments of calm, they matter. They have ripple effects.
And connecting it right back to co-regulation. Your healing helps their healing. Your presence makes a difference. It brings it all full circle.
Yeah, it really does. Reaffirming that core belief.
You and your child are stronger than you know. You can do hard things.
And ending with that image of hope. There is joy ahead. Hold on. Let the good moments land. Trust they will grow.
Wow. So pulling this incredible journey apart, what are the big takeaways for you? For me, it really hammers home the power of the caregiver's own regulation.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just for their own sanity, though that's huge. It's the actual foundation for co-regulating and supporting their child through intense moments.
And how courage can just emerge in surprising ways when the environment shifts from trying to control to really understanding and supporting.
Especially when you meet those underlying needs, like with PDA, with accommodation instead of resistance, it reframes things completely. What looks like avoidance is often actually problem solving.
Right. And the vital importance of noticing and naming and really celebrating the small wins.
Yeah, that tolerance of a trigger word, being able to name a fear, that simple sentence. That wasn't so hard. They aren't small things at all.
They're like flashing neon signs of deep progress.
Exactly. And just how interconnected the parent and child healing journeys are. The parent's ability to stay with the good directly mirrored and supported the child's emerging pride and joy. It's a shared path.
These insights, they feel so relevant beyond just this one story. Guidance for navigating any complex challenge, really, whether it's family stuff or just feeling overwhelmed by information.
They remind us our internal state matters. It ripples out. That understanding changes how we approach things. And that even in the absolute thick of it, seeds of courage and capacity are being planted.
It's a really powerful reminder of resilience.
Yeah.
So here's maybe a thought for you, for the listener, to take away today. Something drawn right from this parent's experience.
Okay.
Can you consciously try to practice staying with the good today, even for just a moment?
Like, really notice it.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a sip of coffee that tastes good, or a quiet second, or a tiny win at work. Can you just notice that pleasant feeling, that little bit of peace, and just let yourself feel it? Let it land.
Pay attention to what shifts, even subtly, when you give that goodness just a little bit of space.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks so much for listening to The Regulated Mother. If this episode helped you feel a little more seen, grounded, or hopeful, I'd love for you to share it with another mom who might need it too. And if you want more nervous system tools and support, head to my website, illuminateyou.ca, to grab my free ebook and video series. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You're doing brave and meaningful work.